Mics are hot here.
So the meeting of the Policy Committee for the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire Department is brought to order for January 26th. And the first order of business is the consent agenda.
I propose that we make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Do you propose that we will make a motion, or do you?
No, I make a motion.
Okay, I was just, because I'll second the proposal to make the motion, but I think you just want to
Thank
make
you for clarifying.
Okay, I was trying to keep up with you, Dave. You're a quick guy. I second.
The motion has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I think she's supposed to
I
call
suppose
the
I
roll,
should have
though.
had Charlotte do that.
Yeah.
I apologize, Charlotte.
He's rusty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Roll call, please. Director Gould,
Still aye.
Director Pearson,
Aye.
Director Orzali.
I'm going to vote aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Next item, proposed revision of current board policies. Chief Wells?
Yes, good evening, directors. This evening we have Melissa Maddox, the HR manager, and myself going over the, basically for review tonight and finalization, or at least the consideration for finalization, are the two policies on the one being the Family Medical Leave Act and the Equal Employment Opportunity Policy. And so we worked on those policies back in October, and we're given direction by the policy committee to come up with some changes. The HR staff has made those changes, and tonight before you, we have both a marked up version so we can have some lineage into what the changes were, and also the final document that has the changes in highlighted in yellow for ease of reading. So maybe we could just start with the FMLA piece. Did we have any further questions about the FMLA?
Only one question. Are we picking blue or picking red?
On the track changes document?
Yeah. And how do I know which is which? Because in other documents that we read tonight, it's just red. So can you just help me? I'm a little slow.
Well, you know what, that's something that we probably haven't caught, and I think the second version around is the blue, but I'm going to just, because it's a software version and out in the track changes.
No, that's fine. It'd be
different
nice
user.
if in the future we could put blue equals second rev, red equals first rev, so we can see, because I couldn't tell what the history was of when that language was supposed to be included or not, and it made it a little harder for me to read the document, so.
Understood. No, I agree. In fact, we can definitely do that. We'll just put some sort of a ledger on there.
Yeah.
Chief, on page 5, under definitions, the first paragraph says employee protection, and upon returning from a qualified leave. The question that came to me was qualified, and if I were questioning this or trying to understand it, where would I find out what's qualified? I guess what I'm getting to is, do we have some place where it outlines that, and would it make sense to footnote it so that a person could go and see what's qualified?
Under qualified leave, yeah, it would be, and maybe it's just a name change or something, but it shows what a qualified employee is and then a qualified family or medical condition.
Right.
And the two below it.
Exactly, but neither of those refer to a qualified leave, and it just left open a question I think we could close.
What do you think, Melissa?
We could definitely change that. The qualified leave is referring to a qualified employee who has one of these qualified medical conditions or issues. So do you want us to clarify that sentence to say further definition below?
I'm just thinking that if somebody wants to know, this circumstance exists, I want to know if it's going to qualify, where would they go to find?
In general, it's not technically up to the district to determine what's qualified. It's up to their physician. We can give them a kind of a broad,
Range.
Parameter.
And we do have some definitions on our FMLA certification form, but it's technically up to their physician to determine if it's a qualified leave.
And even that would seem to me to if there was a footnote that said leave as qualified by your physician.
Okay.
Could you strike that, just put upon returning, and just do away with the reference because it is so nebulous, because it isn't up to the
Sure.
district to determine that?
Sure.
And that alleviates the need to reference anything, because you're not saying upon returning from a qualified leave, you're just saying upon returning, and then it goes on,
Okay,
right?
correct. I mean, yeah.
If you,
so,
if you wanted to go, I think that's a great suggestion, and if you wanted to clarify it, you could say upon returning from an FMLA leave, and that way there wouldn't be any question at all.
Okay.
Just a thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it.
You want that changed?
I like it.
Okay.
Dave? You like it too?
I love it.
I figured as much.
Yep.
But just to clarify, I don't know if we should say FMLA just by itself, because a qualified leave could also include a CFRA leave or a PDL leave. FMLA is only the federal law. So would you just want it to say upon returning, or not upon returning at all? Or maybe we could say upon returning from a qualified leave as deemed by your physician, a qualified physician?
Just take qualified out, just say leave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I-
take
yeah.
qualified out.
I mean, the reality is, this
Yeah.
is, the more pithy and the less we say,
Okay,
the less trouble you get in.
okay.
Yeah, because
So we'll just strike, so it'll read, upon returning from leave, placing an employee in the same position. So we'll just strike that as a qualified leave.
yeah.
Okay.
Then on page 6, under 4, it's just a spelling issue, but qualifying, and I'm sure that's supposed to read emergencies.
And
Under 4?
Number
I
4.
thought they were deleting 4.
Oh, that's a delete? Okay.
No, we didn't delete it. We actually added that because last time you asked us to define a qualifying exigency.
Yeah.
I can't say that word very good, but it is a real word.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the intent.
okay, I
is.
just wanted to be sure we've got the right word.
yeah.
On your authorized healthcare providers, is that, I see the deletion, and I know we made some changes there. You've deleted nurse midwives, clinical social workers, and all those kind of things. Is this authorized healthcare provider list from any kind of definition from the government?
It is. We took that out of the
Excellent.
Labor Law Digest.
Okay.
That's why we deleted it, because these definitions that were in there previous weren't in the Labor Law Digest.
Exactly. That's what I was hoping. Wonderful. I like it. I think it's come a long way in the 47 weeks that we've been looking at it.
So we're good with at this point, with the FMLA. And the reason why, and I guess I'm skipping to the end a little bit, in that tonight we were hoping to refer this to the full board. So maybe we just say, from a policy standpoint, we'll note the change in that one section, to strike the
Absolutely.
word, and then we can stamp it and put it out. Okay? So moving on to the next one, the equal employment opportunity. Anybody have any questions or thoughts on that?
Again, page 15. The red, is that addition now, new language? Is that we took, what we took out?
I think we've came to the conclusion that because we're switching back and forth between versions of Word, that sometimes it makes it blue, sometimes it makes it red.
Okay.
So we'll definitely have to figure that out, but
So-
it is definitely an addition.
Okay, so 1 and 2, red,
Yes,
are new language.
yes.
Okay, great.
And their definitions straight out of the
Yeah.
Employment Digest.
Then on page 16, if we look at item 2, third sentence down, it says, on any of the protected classes. Here again, is there a reference someplace if I want to know what a protected class is? Where do I find that?
It's part of the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and in the paragraph in the background, we define what the protected classes are.
Okay.
And there's a lot of them. I could read them
Yeah.
too, but.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I've read them. I'm just thinking if somebody goes through that and says protected classes, and the only thing I would suggest is we footnote it with a reference to show them where they are.
I think we took all that out last time to clean it up because it was real wordy. We were saying it again, right? Did we
That's
take
what I
some of that out last time?
Yeah, it had duplicated the background
Right.
information essentially.
Are they not listed there at the under policy 2, where it says disability equal to payment compensation, national origin, race? I was just looking for a reference that would take under procedures 2, a footnote for the word protected that would refer them back to where that was.
And that's so we're referencing the, I'm not sure where we're
Number
skipping.
2.
Okay, policy number 2.
So are you looking, if I can, are you looking for that footnote under protected classes to reference under number 1, Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act?
Yes.
So he wants a footnote there, basically referencing
Just a
that to go
footnote
back.
that says, where does one go to find those classes?
Okay, so I'm put it under references.
Sure.
Where do those come from? Protected class list.
Directly from the Labor Law Digest under Title 7.
So you would, Title 7, which is reference 1, would just be
Yes.
footnote at the end of that sentence. Where
Yeah,
it says the bona fide occupational qualification, then you would have a 1 listed there. They would go to a reference, which is Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act. You're done.
Okay.
this would be a MLA version of a reference, just a 1 in parentheses. Okay.
And I love the references. I got to tell you, this is so awesome that we can, look, we're not building this on our own. We're going
Yeah.
to civil and state law, saying that this is what we're using. I think that's a good deal.
And I think that's a kind of a powerful statement in a lot of these policies.
Yeah.
Is, we follow state and federal law.
Correct. And having them referenced is
Exactly.
pretty good.
Okay, any other thoughts on the EEO policy? So with that amended change this evening, we'll recommend that to the full board as well. So just so I can quantify, make sure I got it, it's just a footnoted reference to reference number 1 in the background statement. Is that where we wanted to insert that?
No, in number 2 of procedures, correct?
Yes.
Oh, 2
For
in
protected-
procedures.
Two in procedures.
protected classes.
Right here. Got it. All right. All right. Okay. So moving on to the next, and the one for tonight's initial round. Also, just for a point of clarification, we have all the documentation from 522 as well that they're in support of. Remember, we have a tracking sheet so
Yes.
that we make sure that we have that. So we're good to go on those first 2.
Oh, sure.
So moving on to the workplace harassment. That's actually the next item, so maybe, okay. So for tonight, this will be our initial round, and we have made significant initial edits to this document, all underneath the theme of continuing to streamline and get it into a stricter legal compliance and language and definitions. So does anybody have any questions on this to start?
So again, we're back to this, what's the colors mean, since it's the first time we've seen it?
Yeah,
I
this
hate to
is-
beat the dead dog, but when I'm reading this
Yeah.
thing, I'm like, so is the red, because we've not seen this policy as a committee, so I'm not sure what that first whole sentence was about. Is this new language that's been added, and we're actually not looking at the old policy, we're actually looking at some
Correct.
already designed edit that you all have done in preparation for this meeting?
Yeah, this is the first, because what I think, and maybe we've talked about it in the past, the first wave of this is we look at them from the HR perspective and clean them up the best we think it is. It's all tracked language here on the side. so that we could reference back, that, all that together would be the initial document. In future, we could submit the old policy in addition
Well,
to this.
And I think that's why we pay you. You do a great job of bringing to us the very first edit that you think is appropriate. I don't think we need to waste our time looking back over what you've already decided as the professionals that needs to be tweaked. And I've already said this, a couple times. I don't know if that new red means anything to me because I don't know if it's deleted language or if it's added language. So anyway, I know you're going to handle it. I wasn't sure what that first piece was.
All this stuff is the initial round from the HR staff. Edited out the old language, and the pieces that are obviously on the right are deleted. So this is the recommendation we'd be making as the initial draft of a revision.
And all the red in this one is added language.
Right, very good.
Yeah.
I had a question on page 22, under definitions, to the reference to veteran status as workplace discrimination. I had not encountered veteran status previously. Is that come from a new language, or is that a part of a statute, or where's it come from?
It's also, for discrimination, it's also part of Title VII,
Okay.
veteran status. If you're a retired vet, or you're a disabled vet, or if you're in the reserves, you can't say, well, you're in the reserves, I'm not going to
Right,
hire
okay.
you.
All right, thank you.
Again, we go to definitions. Can you help me with page 23, item 5? Hostile work environment. Any unwelcome or unsolicited speech that unreasonably interferes. That term unreasonably seems very problematic for me because it seems vague and subjective. Is that language out of code?
It is, and the problem with hostile work environment is actually a type of sexual harassment. Quid pro quo and hostile work environment refer to sexual harassment. So under the laws of sexual harassment, the unreasonably, really what they say what a reasonable person would perceive.
Right, which is the next sentence.
Right, so that's where it is very vague, I agree. It's kind of in the hands of the beholder, or in the eyes of the beholder, and it's what someone perceives as unreasonable. I may perceive it as completely reasonable, like that doesn't qualify for sexual harassment, but if that person who feels that they're, working in a hostile work environment, then we have to take action.
So the intent, even though this is hostile work environment, the intent is to maintain its subjectivity so that it allows the person claiming it to have good standing. Because they're saying, based on my subjective evaluation, it's a hostile work environment.
Yes.
Okay, so it's circular. That makes sense.
And one other thing that we actually meant to say before we even started, and I'm glad we grabbed onto that, the quid pro quo, the definition number 4 and number 5, we have, before tonight's meeting, because we submit these a week in advance, but in further review, those are going to be subsections of the sexual harassment number 3. And I know it's in a definition phase, but I think it's important that we do throw those in their proper place. So it'd be 3, and then the quid pro quo would be A, and 5 would be B. That way there's...
Interesting.
So that we can lump them in there. The interesting thing about it, though, is the hostile work environment, technically in a legalistic sense, is only for the protected classes as it relates to sexual harassment. However, in the Metro Fire, we have the policy. Clearly it's state and federal law that if somebody's going to sue us, they have to do it in that fashion. But we want it to be, that's just not acceptable, period. It doesn't matter if you're not in a protected class. So we thought it was important to have this language in here referenced individually without the sexual harassment piece, but it needs to fall under there so everyone sees how it fits legally.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
It does.
But just to reiterate, though, that unreasonably interferes is good, as written. Or after the explanation, we're going to keep it? Okay.
Yeah. Any other comments?
Not for me.
No, I'm good.
Then I think we're good.
Okay, excellent. I think, at this point, the plan for this one will be to go back, run it through labor, and make sure that they sign off on it so that this body is the final approving body. And then at the next board meeting I guess it'd be the last meeting in February, we'll send this one to the full board. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, good work.
Yeah, I would like to take the opportunity. I'm literally just the mouthpiece. You should see how the folks in the HR staff, the way they do this, they spread it all out. They have 4 professionals sitting there with it on the screen, all the labor books out, and it's really getting down to a great product. So I'd like to thank the staff in HR for doing that.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, can I ask one thing? Chief, the other thing I'd like to get back from you and your staff is this process better than what we've done in the past? Is there something this committee can do to maybe make the process work better for you all? Are we in your way more than we need to be? Because I think this is working better than it has in the past, where we used to auger in on something for a year or two. I think President Lawson, we had a policy that was, I think, on this dais for the better part of a year, and holy Toledo, that's just ridiculous. But I'd like you to know that, and I think the chair would agree, that we're here to make sure that you're able to do your job as effectively as you can and move through those policies as effectively as you can. And so if there's something that we're doing that's holding that up, I'd like you to feel comfortable saying, hey, that sounds good, but it's really going to jam us up, because I know you've done that in the past, and I appreciated that foresight so that we could tweak what we wanted to get done. Because I think we're too far removed from the day-to-day of HR to know what's going to help you and what's not. So if you give us a list, I'd hope that we could help you move through some of these even faster.
You know, and I appreciate that. I actually think we're in a position right now where they have a bunch of them they've been working on the queue. And, you know, with the November meeting and the December because of the holidays, I think we're right on track. And I think that the way this body is working to generate this product with your input, and then we come back, I mean, it's not a timeliness issue on some of these. I think we refocused on which ones would have board oversight and which ones weren't.
Yeah.
And I think that initially created some of the slowdown because there was just so many.
Yeah.
I think now I'd like to keep it going for about 6 more months, and I think we're really on track now. I think the process even our own internal mechanism is much smoother than it was. So I think it's on track for now. And we'll assess.
It is producing a much better product. And I think we've all learned a lot in this. Remember when I first joined the board, we had 3 meetings where we discussed policy regarding badges for directors and certificates. And I don't think that would happen today.
No, in fact, and if it was an administrative policy, you would know at least we were working on it. But I think it has definitely streamlined the process.
Although I would like to go on record as wanting a larger badge.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, boy.
If anything, we're our own worst enemy, because if you saw us for the 4 or 5 hours we spend on these arguing with each other, then, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's money well vested, because if you think about it, when there's policies that are clear, follow the law, when they get questioned, it actually saves us money down the road. So I think that those hours that you go at each other and that blood you spill is well good for the organization, because there have been, I think in the tenure that I've been here, there's been several times where the policy itself was its worst enemy, because it was so unclear and it could be interpreted 53 different ways. And then we ended up doing a disservice to the employee, which was the biggest issue, and then elongating the process of paying. It was just, death by 1,000 cuts. And I think that with this and the clarity and those things, if we ever find ourselves having to use these in some unfortunate circumstances, the time you're spending and the little time we're spending is actually going to work out for the agency as a whole and save us some money. So I think it's money well vested.
It's a good thing we all like each other and get along.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, any further business?
No, I think
Great.
that concludes our piece.
All right, and Chief, thank you so much for the effort.
Thank you.
Any further business on the part of the directors?
So one question I have, we have a meeting on the 23rd, and Chief, is there a way you can maybe give us a little head start on if you're looking at March to be a particularly heavy meeting as far as the number of policies that we'll be reviewing, and if it's nothing more than, it looks to me like in March you'll have 3, potentially in April you may have 5. I think for me personally, in order to read these at the depth and have some quasi-good questions to ask, it's nice to kind of be able to plan a month out or 2 months out to say, look, April's going to be a heavy policy committee month because he's looking at 5 coming through the gauntlet. I don't know if you can do that, but if you can, it sure would help me kind of get an idea of next month. I got a pretty light schedule for the policy committee. I think I'm good, but if you think, geez, April's going to be ugly, I can plan it that way.
Well, you know what, I think the plan at this point is, I'd like to, at this point, be getting 2 that, because the other 2 were, you know, the first 2 that we did this evening.
Yeah.
It's only because of the law of recency. We talked a lot about those in October.
Right.
And I think that's a weird anomaly because of the holidays.
Right.
But next time we come in, it'll only be a month, and everything we talked about today on the EO, or the workplace, thank you. Those are going to be relatively fresh. So I'd like to have at the 2 that are ready to go to the full board for adoption, and 1 to 2 new ones.
Got it, okay.
I don't think we'll ever overload you.
And you're kind of seeing that as a trend throughout 2012.
Yeah, and we really wanted to have all these reviewed and done every 2 years, but at the same time, you know, if we have to do 5 or 6 a meeting to get that done, that may not be realistic.
Yeah.
So, because we want a quality product, so.
Right. Okay, thank you, that's what I need. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Seeing no further business, the next meeting of the Policy Committee will be February 23rd at 5 p.m. And Charlotte, do we know, will that meeting also be held here?
All of the next meetings will be held here
Okay,
until further notice.
all right, thank you. Seeing no further business, the Policy Committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.